Welcome to Drips of Consciousness. I am Christel Crawford, and you are invited to a completely different world where my epiphanies in consciousness could change everything for you. I just had an amazing session with someone, and I do get this question a lot. One of the things she was wondering about is how I've left relationships and how I've known when it's time, and I get a lot of people that ask me that. And if you've followed me for any length of time, you know that I've been in and out of relationships over the last probably my whole life. The one that I'm in now is so sweet and such a conscious creationship for sure. Like, we are actively always, destroying and uncreating and creating together and choosing to be loving and all kinds of really amazing stuff. And I'll do an episode on that. But I wanted to give you a little, verbal guide on, should I stay or should I go? And the first thing to just acknowledge is, that question of how do I know when it's time to leave there's no one answer to that. And what I want to say to that is that the thing I started to recognize about that question is that in this reality, there are only two choices. You either stay or you leave. And I've been binging on series like Grey's Anatomy and Bridgerton lately on my bars days. And so, when you watch those shows, it's I'm either staying or I'm going. There's no middle ground. You're either surviving and tolerating, or you're madly in love, or you're leaving. And so when I started to recognize that was a this reality choice, it was the polarizing choices, I started to play with that. And here's how I start to play with this. When I'm at a point in a relationship where I'm feeling like, this is just over, it's done, that whole energy, I've started to ask myself two questions. What will my life be? Well, three questions, actually. What will my life be like in 5 years if I go? Yes or no? No. And then go with what pops there. And I mean, like, instantly pops. Awareness is very, very fast. There's no thinking required. So if when you ask yourself that question, you go into any kind of thinking, you're already trying to compute the answer rather than get an awareness of a future. Okay? So truth, and you got to truth yourself because you'll lie to yourself. So say out loud to yourself, truth, what will my life be like if I go now? Yes or no? Truth, what will my life be like if I stay now? Yes or no? Now, I had a scenario where I asked both those questions and I got no to both. So it wasn't stay or go. So I asked a very different question, which is, truth, what will my life be like if I make a different choice? Yes or no? And that one was a yes. But you got to ask those questions to yourself and see what you get, because sometimes leaving is the thing that will create more. Sometimes leaving is the thing that we do because we're coping with what it is. And so it isn't always just one thing, and staying isn't always just one thing. So I always employ my awareness of the future that my choice is going to create in those moments, because relationships are intense and they're not easy. And even though they can be the sweetest things, they are probably the most challenging things we get into. It's two different realities, two different, sets of points of view, two different agendas, two different sets of priorities. And many, many, many times we start relationships from one space and then change. And, so everything is changing all the time. So I would say, start with those questions. And I've said to other people, just keep asking. When you know that you need to leave, you can just keep asking, is it time? Yes or no? But that kind of got replaced with the previous process that I just told you about. So use whichever one of those that works best for you. The other thing I would say about this is buy The Gentleman's Club, which is by Gary Douglas. I have it on Kindle. You can get it in hardback. And read the section in chapter 1 called Change or Different. Because in relationships in particular, we keep trying to change them or change ourselves or change a dynamic, right? That's how we're shown to make things better, is you fix them, you change them. But the reality is that you can only create something different when you choose something different. It's not changing your position on the chair that's going to make the chair comfortable. It's you're uncomfortable in the chair and you ask, what can I choose here that's different? And that's when all of your creativity opens up and all of your ability opens up, and the universe can then contribute awareness of what you could choose that's different that you've never considered. So that question, what can I choose here that's different, will start to open things up. And what I did with that particular section is I read it and then took copious notes on that section. I got an 8x10 or 11.5, whatever, sheet of paper, and I wrote out every single question that he told that person in the class to ask. And I kept that by my bedside table and taped it on the wall because I was like, I need a different set of questions to function from right now, because at that particular time it was so intense. And, I needed just a different input in my life. I was functioning from things that weren't really giving me ease. And so I needed different input. And when you start to ask different questions, you get different input. So that's another thing that I did for myself that really contributed. I guess the fourth major thing I'll say about this is that I have also been in relationship situations where whatever that other person did was just an absolute deal breaker for me. And it's also in relationship, having total allowance for you, no matter what, no matter consciousness, not consciousness, whatever. I've been in situations where that other person did something where it just hit something in me and I was just like, no, this is over now. And I've left in the middle of the night. So I also want to say that you never have to tolerate or live with anything. And I guess the fifth thing is that you always know what it is. And if you need to, get more present with what you know and really get more conscious with what you know, it's these 4 questions that you can ask anything. Hey, what is this? What can I do with it? And then the third question, which I think is probably the most important, is truth. Can I change it? Yes or no? And in the series of those 4 questions, that particular question got glossed over by me a lot because I just assumed that I could change anything. I could change any situation with anybody. And that's incorrect. You can't. Some people it's an unworkable thing. You've changed to the degree that, having a close relationship with them just becomes unworkable. It just doesn't work anymore. But, that's something you've got to get willing to be honest with yourself about is, can I change this? Yes or no? And then really, really, really getting that none of your choices have any significance. And if you do need to leave because that creates more because you want to, because whatever, just get that you're included. And this is included. And, you're not wrong. And you're not wrong for wanting to leave. And you're not wrong if you don't ask questions. And you're not wrong if it isn't working. And you're not wrong. And that other person isn't wrong. It's just, what can you choose now? What can you choose now that's different? What can you choose now that includes you? And if you weren't choosing against the other person, but you were choosing for a future and a reality that you're going to have for you, what can that be like? And what choices do you have? Thank you so much for listening to this show. My target is to make consciousness easy to find. So if you enjoyed this, please leave a 5-star review and also share this with a friend who might be looking for more consciousness in their life. You can visit me on ChrystelJoyCrawford.com, and to learn more about the incredible life-changing tools of Access Consciousness, go to accessconsciousness.com and theclearingstatement.com, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast.